Now, welcome back. The image of a company is everything, as many PR professionals will tell you. Entire teams are dedicated to build a certain image of a brand, crafting messages, images, and communication to further increase their appeal.
However, all that can work, that hard work can be destroyed just one wrong move, as several companies have learned the hard way, basically. And to tell us more about, we have Raymond from Edelman, Indonesia.
Hello.
How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me here. It's great to be here.
Yes. All right. Now we talk about the
cases.
The cases, the recent cases. Basically, we have United
Airlines,
and then Airlines that I think was pretty, quite a bad move. And then we
global
also
news,
global news. Exactly. It was parody. Everything was everyone was making fun of it. Other airlines were making fun of them. And then we also have the Pepsi case.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts about this two recent incidents?
Well, both of them are rather different in its origin and how the crisis developed, or how the issue developed. But the end result is the same, right? Both the brands took a reputational hit.
And they're big brands also.
And they're huge brands, they're global brands. I mean, we're talking Pepsi here, right? And then United, which is top 3 in the United States and flies all across the world. United was, I think, in our point of view, purely a customer service issue.
Right.
This was a paying customer who had every expectations to be on that flight.
To be on that board,
and had to go to his destination for a commitment that he couldn't get out of. He was a doctor and he had to be at the hospital the next day. It's like any one of us walking into a Starbucks, paying for a coffee and expecting to have that coffee and drinking it, or moving into a hotel and getting a room and expecting to stay in it. What happens if someone comes to you and says, you got to give that coffee back or vacate your seat or give up your room? I've paid for it.
It's your right.
To stay on it, right? So it could have been handled better. It was a process issue that was made worse by the excessive use of force with no regards for customer right. And generally, United and all the other brands that are in the service industry focuses on its customer.
Customers first. That's usually what they say.
It has to be, right? Your business is customer focused. It's a service industry. And in that respect, I think they lost a little bit of focus, lost a lot of focus on doing what's right for the customer. Right. So if you reverse the situation, and if it was a CEO in that position, would that be tolerated? Obviously not. So processes were followed, I think, a bit too rigidly, with no humanity put into that process. And what was more important is that issue could have been handled a lot better.
A lot smoother.
An issue is escalated then to a crisis. And I think that's a key learning, right? In PR speak, there is an issue and there is a crisis. An issue, if handled well, will remain an issue and will be sorted out, or hopefully pulled down to a normal level very quickly. But if you let an issue escalate, then it becomes a crisis, and that takes on a whole different spin.
But they gave an option, like for example, okay, 5 person needs to be off board because we have to carry the crew, and they give options to give money and then also to stay in a hotel.
They also offered to increase the amount of money, but the passenger did not want to follow the they didn't want to give in at all. But in this case, who do you think is at fault, though?
Well, it's certainly not the passenger.
All right.
Right? He was randomly chosen, and I think that he had every right to expect.
They picked the wrong person. He was a doctor.
Possibly, but as passengers waiting to go back home for your work, for your loved ones, you have expectation to fly, right? And again, I said, I think that passenger wouldn't mind giving up his seat if it was an emergency situation. I think none of us would. But we're talking about accommodating 4 crew members who could have easily driven to their location in 5 hours. If you want to look at that, or put them into a later flight. So there were other options available to the brand, which was not taken. But what was more, I think, damaging to the brand was the CEO, the leader of the company, making rather callous statements. Firstly, it wasn't sincere, and it wasn't done in the fastest way possible. The first 2 statements came out in the first 48 hours. Didn't show remorse. And the first rule of crisis communication is empathy.
Empathy, right.
Show compassion.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that the 4 C's in crisis call. Show compassion and empathy to what's going on. Right?
In fact, he actually did mention that the employees were actually following the rules and the regulations from the plane itself. So, it's not any of the employees' fault. He did actually state that within the 48 hours before he actually sent another heartfelt apology, right, on Tuesday.
But on that same note, he did say that the doctor was belligerent and disruptive. All right, and the videos didn't point to any of those.
That's true.
So whether he was misinformed or whether that was some advisors giving him the wrong advice, that certainly wasn't compassion that was coming out.
That's true. And there were also articles coming out on how the passenger itself had dark past. He was this and that,
which was unnecessary.
Which was unnecessary. But do you think it was
they released that news, in order to defend the airline, or
so that's interesting. They may have. That's counter, right? But again, it backfired. To me, it seemed that the advisors went a little bit overboard here. It was a simple issue.
Right.
Apologize. Visit the doctor in the hospital.
Right.
Say you're sorry that happened.
Yes.
Show compassion.
Compassion. I agree.
Tell the public what are the procedures that needed to be reviewed so that this will never happen again. Use of excessive force, on board an airline for a paying customer in any situation, not just airlines, should not be tolerated. Right?
But there are many issues sometimes also. They're big airlines, right? They're going to show how powerful they are. We're going to stand with our rights. We have the regulations. This guy with the background of because he was this and that and that, and they want to use that power. Was that wrong as a PR, for example, team?
That's interesting. So bigger brands, large global brands, perhaps feel that they have that mandate or that they have the power to do that, right? And this is just not in the United case, across the board, right? Top-down directional sort of approach that I provide you essential services or essential products or product that's ubiquitous and therefore you take what I tell you, right? Not true. Communications has pivoted, So previously it was the pyramid, top-down influencer model. We call it the diamond of influence in Element. It's now a bottom-up, horizontal communications model, right? So consumers are becoming social activists. You see it here. You see it exactly in this instance where consumers took a stand, not only catalyzed by this incident, catalyzed, but overall towards how they were being treated by these big brands. That was interesting.
That's right. Just always spoke about the crisis of United, but now we're going to get into Pepsi. Now, what's the difference between Pepsi and United, though, in this case?
So it's interesting in the Pepsi case. Pepsi as a brand speaks to the next generation, the young generation, the millennials, right? From what we understand is there was, of course, a brainstorming in terms of positioning Pepsi on the next campaign, and they finally moved on to hire one of the Kardashians.
Kendall Jenner.
Kendall Jenner there.
Yes, I'm a big fan of her,
His favorite, by the way.
Well, for right or wrong reasons. But next to Cindy Crawford, she was the next face, right? But it was a big campaign, and a global campaign that they wanted to launch. Now, it was discussed internally, right? So it was the Creators League, which is an in-house agency that came up with the campaign. It's not wrong to come up with a campaign that talks about social issues, and there are lots of brands who are understanding right now that the millennials are more willing to identify or self-identify with brands with social purpose or with social cause. I mean, that's been going on over the last 3-4 years. Right? Pepsi decided to jump on it, right? But I think the execution left a lot to be desired.
What went wrong, though?
So I think putting the context of Kendall Jenner, who's a model, who doesn't have the authenticity, right? Doesn't have the street creds, so to speak, in this sort of environment previously. In a very serious sort of social issue, right? You're talking about police brutality. You're talking about Black Lives Matter. You're talking about very serious issues in there. And it seems to us that Pepsi trend jacked or social cause jacked the issue, trivialized the matter. And that was painful. Trivializing a serious matter got a lot of people rather upset. And the choice of the brand ambassador for that serious issue didn't quite sit Yeah?
But for example, as a team, before they launch the product, I'm sure there have been meetings or, hey, what's the effect of this and that? Were they ready for this?
No, so this is the discussion that's going on in the ad sphere or in the communication sphere.
Yeah.
This must have gone through A/B testing. This must have gone through focus group discussions. They must have spent millions
What did they
testing
miss?
this. What did they miss? Why did it proceed with this?
Right.
Now, the interesting thing is this. I just read an article yesterday that said the Pepsi brand actually scored higher with millennials on this ad recently.
Wow.
Right? A brand survey just came out to say that among millennials, Pepsi as a brand 50% had 50% favorability scores on that advertisement.
Okay.
Kendall Jenner, to your much to your disappointment,
You're not the only one.
has taken a hit. So this was interesting to us, right? So the brand had more talkability.
Right.
For whatever the reasons, I think that'll be dissected whether Pepsi was brave enough to go to this space and wanted to tackle a serious issue, albeit the execution was a little bit, maybe wrong taste.
Right.
But the brand got better scores.
Oh.
Interesting.
So there's a advantage and disadvantage, but when it comes to this kind of case, as a PR also, this is a great case to learn about, to discuss about, right?
Absolutely. So it tells you that preparation is very important. You know, in the earlier case, in this case, in all cases, preparation for an issue or a crisis is crucial, right? So Pepsi went really fast and hard. They pulled off the ads within 24 hours. Switched their tone, the head of, I think, North America, Pepsi North America, 24 hours before the ad went out, said he was very proud of it and it was looking, at this going global. And in 24 hours, changed to say he's really sorry that they seem to have trivialized the matter, pulled it back, and really said all the right things. Kendall Jenner didn't issue a statement, but she deleted her tweets on it and remained quiet.
So they were fast moving, and that's
very quick.
That is what is needed, right?
So in an issue or crisis, that's its speed is essential. You're talking about Twitterverse. Twitterverse is now, right? In the context of Jakarta, I think Facebook has got 95 million users and growing, right?
Yes,
that's third largest in the world beside United States and India. Twitter is the go-to channel for complaints, for sharing news, so
everything. And when it comes to social media now, when you complain a lot, how do you face with it sometimes, or to get back again with the crucial issues?
Listening is key. So previously it's easy, right? The newspapers or broadcast comes out 24 hours later, or at the very least 12 hours later.
Right.
It's now. Right? So anything breaks right now is now.
Present.
Is the present. So your listening capability on social becomes very important, right? Which is why a lot of our clients globally, and even here we advise them to set up something that we call the command center. You're just monitoring your brand conversations or issues related to your brand, just to pick up certain things, right? And the faster that you respond to a potential customer who's upset, the better. You can take it offline. You can private message the guy, send him a note and say, listen, we're sorry for that experience, and how can we make it better? So speed is essential, but you can't do that if you're not monitoring the landscape, unless it hits you on the head, right? Somebody says, aha, did you see that about your brand? You start scrambling.
But in the case of United, though, there are probably thousands of people that have been backlashing them. How do you actually confront them one by one and apologize and all that in their case?
And to stop the video, or
to stop
people
it going viral, because this is
everything.
basically used on social media as a platform, right? Whereas, let's say, like Pepsi, it's easy for them to take down the advertisement. But I think for United's case, though, what's done cannot be undone right now. The passenger's already, treated in the hospital. He's had, he's also, I think, has an attorney for himself already.
Absolutely. So this nightmare is not going to end, right? The family has already said they're going to sue, and I think they will proceed. Right. So share price has taken a 4% dip. That's 1 billion. It's gone back up. It's 1% down. But if the case is actually filed and they move on, there could probably be a perfect storm. Right. So one issue of a video impacts the entire business operations. What can we do about it? Right now, there's not much you can do about the videos online because it's user generated, right? Bottoms up, horizontal spec, you can't do anything with it. But what you can do in a crisis situation is for the CEOs to lead from the front. So if you look at it, the low-cost airline that had a bit of a problem or had a disaster here 3 years ago,
Yes.
the CEO turun lapangan was leading from the front for the first 1 week. So here, I strongly believe that the CEO of United should
actually
be
do the
leading from the
same.
front to say, listen, there are two things in here.
Okay.
We had processes, perhaps too rigidly followed, resulted in excessive use of force that impacted a paying customer. Nobody deserved that. We're relooking that. Number one. Number two, there seems to be an issue for customer centricity in United Airlines. What are we doing then to change our staff's behavior to customers?
Agree.
Number three, what are the things that, a bill of rights, for example, that we guarantee our customers? Put it online. Put another video online to show customers what their rights are.
Their empathy also.
How do you, how do we deboard you if we need to, and what you can do in that instance, and so on and so forth. I mean, so go very strong and hard now to show how do you focus on your customers.
Because it is a service company anyways, you are selling your services to people, so they should be number one. All right, Raymond, we ran out of time, unfortunately. A lot more to ask.
Thank you very much for sharing with us. And it's been learning also, being a PR or how to get back up again.
But even for us personally, how do we, let's say, face backlash from people as well, and also, social media and all that.
I can just say speed and compassion.
Speed and compassion.
Remember that, okay? All right, this is Raymond here. Thank you so much, Raymond.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Raymond. Thank you.